question for you. What is something about Unitarian Universalism that you cherish? Something that is the heart of our faith to you? Take a moment, let it come to you, and then write your answer down on your Post-it note. If you don't want to write, you can draw a little doodle. It can be as short as a word or as long as a sentence. And does anybody need a Post-it note or a pencil? Is everybody good? So once you've got your answer, once you've written down something from our faith that you really cherish, something that's important to you about being a Unitarian Universalist, you just put your little Post-it on the back of the pew in front of you or somewhere else that'll be safe, and we'll come back to it later on in the sermon. This conference where Monica and I met was the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists, a gathering of people from all over the world who are our siblings and cousins in faith. Our host community was the Unitarians of the Khazi Hills in northeast India. These folks who made this box. We'd originally planned to meet there in the Khazi Hills, but unfortunately, like our own government, India is experiencing a rise of nationalism. They had a pro-Hindu nationalist party in power in their government and would not allow us to have conference visas as people who were not Hindus. So we moved across the border, we held our conference in Nepal, and the Indians from the Khazi Hills kindly hosted us there in Kathmandu. Meeting a whole bunch of Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists over the course of several days gave me this sense of our faith as a mosaic. Each country is like its own stone. Each country's faith, each tradition, a different size or shape. Some more gleaming and some softer, but none more important than the others. The mosaic needs all of our stones to be complete. Throughout the conference, I learned about these stones and about the mortar that binds us together as Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists. And today, I want to tell you about this mosaic, and we are actually going to build it together. Our first stone I've already placed for us is that red one that you can see, and it is the Unitarian Union of Northeast India, our hosts. The Indian Unitarian movement is over 125 years old. It was founded by a person named H.K. Singh. Singh was raised under Calvinist missionaries, colonizers. As an adult, he came to reject the doctrine of damnation that they had taught him. He simply found it incompatible with the teachings of Jesus. Somebody said, "That sounds familiar," and introduced him to older American Unitarian writings, Channing and the like. He started to read these, and then he got in touch with his contemporary Unitarians in England and started corresponding across the distance. And with time, the Indian Unitarianism that he was forming took off. Today, there are about 10,000 Unitarians in India. Most live in the Khazi Hills, that northeast region, but there are Unitarians scattered in cities throughout India. In some areas where there are many Unitarians, the anniversary of the church's founding is a public holiday. Can you imagine that? Having Unitarian Universalism Day, a big parade through town. My friend Banjak Nongri told me about the worship services in the Kazi Hills. Some congregations have professional ordained ministers. Many are entirely lay-led, perhaps enjoying periodic visits from a district minister who travels. Either way, their services seem fairly similar to ours. They have hymns, they have some words of prayer and some readings, they have sermon. But there's one pretty big difference, which is they have worship, kids, grown-ups, and everybody in between. Then they have Sunday school, kids, grown-ups, and everyone in between. And then they have another worship, kids, grown-ups, and everyone in between. Indian Unitarianism is a church of seekers. We seek to improve ourselves and our wider world. God is a universal spirit that acts as our mother and father so that we might live as siblings together. We are each born, according to Indian Unitarianism, we are each born with a natural closeness to God. Not born damned, not born sinners, but born with a natural closeness to God. And through religion, we practice reuniting with that sense when we lose it. We also practice recognizing that spark of God in each other. I heard the phrase, "no man, no God," as in to know one another is to know God, from several Indian Unitarians. As their leader, Rupai Lamar, put it, we are the imprint of God, a divine spark with the potential to be ever more better. Unitarianism leads to loving what is in the world and to work with joy for justice. Indian Unitarians have worked for gay and lesbian rights, as our friend Monica shared. They're also especially working on environmental issues like mining and deforestation, and on gender issues like violence against women and children. No man, no God. Do good and return to your original closeness with God. This sentiment is captured well in the Kazi word kuble. We practice saying that together a few times. It's kuble. 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 This word has 4 meanings. It means God. It means bless you. And thank you. And excuse me. Kuble. It's the essence of Indian Unitarianism. Another stone, our blue one here, is the Unitarian Church of Burundi. Burundi in Africa, the church there was founded 15 to 20 years ago by Fulgence and Ndagijimana. The Unitarian Church of Burundi's initial work wove together community, social justice, and theology, all coming together to be church. They believe in the freedom of conscience and that Jesus was a prophet and a person to emulate. Now, to Burundians, not just you Burundians, but all Burundians, God is found in our relationships and in the energy between us and the energy in our world. So for Burundi Unitarian Universalists, the interdependent web is a core part of their faith because it's already a core part of their culture. Being in relationship with one another, with our microphone, being in relationship and being in community, it is the foundation of being human. And because we are all linked together, we are led to work for justice. Because we are all dependent and interdependent on one another, we work for one another's lives. As Fulgence says, to do good is to become more fully human, is to care for the whole world. Whether we finish the work or not, we know that the community continues. This way of religious life was a touchstone for the church as it grew. Founded around the turn of the century, by 2011, the church had grown to 70 members, with its own building and satellite congregations. That same year, they ordained Fulgence and called him to continue working with them as their minister. Their justice efforts centered around domestic violence, including running a local program for men who had perpetrated violence, and on national peace issues. This was risky work. In 2015, a new wave of political unrest rocked the country when the president broke the terms of the 10-year-old National Peace Treaty. Fulgence and the Unitarian congregation spoke up loudly in support of the treaty, working for its restoration. And the backlash was terrible. The church was ransacked, and church leaders were kidnapped and imprisoned. Fulgence, from his prison cell, was able to get in touch with some of his congregants when one of the prison guards let him use the guard's cell phone. His congregants came and held a vigil outside of the prison walls, at a real risk to their own safety. Fulgence cautions us that this was not necessarily an act of bravery or heroism, but rather people came out and held that vigil because they knew and they felt the inextricable ties between their lives and his, between all of our lives. The Burundi UU sense of God in our relationships sustained them as they came day after day after day as they sought Fulgence's release. In the end, he was released, and he was granted asylum in Canada. He now continues his ministry with Burundi UUs from afar and has a local ministry where he's settled. Other members of the Burundi UU Church fled elsewhere. Many are in Rwanda, and it was safe there for a while. But last year, the Rwandan government tightened the legal definition of church, and they stopped recognizing Unitarian Universalism. As far as the government is concerned, we no longer exist. UUs haven't gone anywhere, of course, but they can no longer meet legally. If they do, they may be arrested. I don't know more than this, but you can learn more by following the ICUU webpage or Facebook page online. That's the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists. So most members of the Burundi Church went into exile if they could, in Rwanda, across the globe, but some stayed. And in fact, they still gather every Sunday, 15 to 20 of them, including several new members. These people gathering because they have found community, because they have found a place that is welcoming, a place that has, where they have found their faith mirrored back to them in the church. I'm moved by the commitment of our Burundi and Rwandan neighbors to continue to gather and live out our shared faith in the face of such strong persecution. Reverend Fulgence says that the work of the church now is to build community. Spread so far and wide, the work is to come together. My friend Jean Bosco Ndi Hokubwayo explains it this way. We need to foster our relationships with ourselves, with God, with nature, and with others. Or as Francois Niragira says, all of the world, all of the earth is made in the image of God. So these are the stones of the Kazi Hills and of Burundi. And we have some more stones, which I invite our kids to help put up. They're right there in that front pew. So one stone is the UU Church of the Philippines. And you can just go ahead and put them up sort of all at the same time. We're going to go through these ones just in bookmark fashion. So one stone is the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Philippines, which began as a Universalist church, saying that all of us are loved, all of us are saved, and now is much like our own UU churches. In fact, we have the same set of principles as each other, these same 7 principles. They have one more than we do, which is their first principle. There is God, God is love. Another stone is the Hungarian and Transylvanian Unitarians, steeped in 500 years of history. They give us the Western world's first edict of religious freedom in the Edict of Torah. The British Unitarian and Free Christian churches that uphold the ideals of freedom, reason, and tolerance. The Indonesian Unitarian Church, founded 20 years ago as a radically monotheistic Christian church. It's a little bit of a mouthful. Means that they were getting back to the roots of Christianity as they saw those roots. They worship on Saturdays, the Sabbath. They eat kosher meat. They have a special place in their faith for Jesus and the Bible, and they believe strongly in each religion's freedom of belief. And our last stone in our mosaic so far is our American Unitarian Universalist Association, our UUA, and the Canadian Unitarian Council, the CUC. We, our UUA, came together from the union of the Unitarians and the Universalists back in 1961. We believe in the free and responsible search for truth, and in the interdependent web and injustice. So these are the larger stones in our mosaic, and I like to picture each of us as having our own smaller stones too. And so if you still have your post-it, I invite you to take your post-it and bring it up and place it in our mosaic as one of those smaller stones. If it's harder for you to get up and move around, then you can ask your neighbor to bring your stone up for you.